Well, it's that very special time of year, that itty-bitty little gap where things are not frozen, but not quite warm yet. This is the time of year where I'm usually bugging to take that winter cover off, even though it is a little bit cold. Probably gonna have some rain in the forecast, but I don't care. I'm like ready for the sailing season to begin. So we're gonna do that next weekend, but right now I'm gonna do something completely different. I'm gonna break all the rules of YouTube channel, content creator, and I'm gonna do something completely different. We're not doing sailing today. We're doing making maple syrup. We're gonna go visit our friend Scott Garman. He's got a sugar shack, and I don't know what sugar shack means in your neck of the woods, but around here, sugar shack is where you process maple sap into syrup. And I've never seen one before. I'm pretty interested, and so we're gonna go talk to Scott, and we're gonna find out where maple syrup comes from. All right, Scott, where does maple syrup come from?
Maple syrup comes from the sap out of the maple trees.
Cool. Give me a tour of your setup here.
Yeah, and the sap is only usable in the springtime. Usually for about 4 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. As the weather breaks and it starts to get to 20s in the nighttime and up in the 40s in the daytime. And the sap runs as the temperatures change, the sap goes up and down the tree. Mm-hmm. And so you end up tapping the trees. And I have everything all set up on pipelines to link all the trees to pumps.
Amazing. So it's not like gravity that's pulling it. It's you're actually got suction from the pumps.
Well, I'm hooked up on pumps, but gravity would also work. And because I go up probably to an elevation, there's probably about 100-foot elevation rise from where the shack is to where the lines are in the back out in the woods. So I get the advantage of the gravity of the sap coming down the lines and then the pumps on top of that.
Excellent.
So you literally pull a vacuum and you're sucking it out of the tree. It doesn't damage the tree, but you're just capturing more of it.
Now, are you looking for like a prime age or dimension of the tree?
The tree should be, in theory, the tree should really be about 8 inches or bigger, 10 inches in diameter before you start tapping them.
Cool. Let's go take a closer look at where the tap's set up. Right.
All right.
Pretty slick. Not what I imagined. Actually, I imagined something was metal. I guess plastic, sanitary, doesn't corrode.
Yeah, there's no real bacteria with it or anything to that effect. These are 2 pieces. And what I'll do is the clear piece gets thrown away each year. The black piece is going to stay on the line. At the end of the season, we'll flush the line out, flush all the old sap out of the line. You can see the sap moving through the lines.
Oh wow, look at that. Got on camera. Yeah, sure can.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
And that's right now, that's just gravity.
Wow, here it goes.
So all of these pipelines, I have all the trees connected to a single pipeline, and then they're hooked up to a pump, a water pump at the far end that is creating the vacuum. And what I do is I measure how much vacuum the pumps are doing. Right now the pumps aren't running, so there's no vacuum, but I can get as much as 25, 27 inches of vacuum with the pumps. And that allows me to, having that gauge allows me to measure the performance, how well it's doing.
Yeah. What are you doing there?
I'm just skimming off the foam that's a byproduct of the boiling. It's just having the foam on the surface there insulates the top and cuts down on the evaporation rate. So just periodically come in and just skim it off a little bit.
And I was hearing that you're just recently licensed for commercial sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you say probably this size operation is probably like the bridge between like the amateur and the pro?
Yeah, sort of. It's still a hobby, but I've had a local business that came to me and wanted to buy my syrup, so in order to do that I got to be licensed.
Well, nothing else. This is a great hobby because it smells lovely in here.
Yeah, it's a great way to transition from winter to spring to summer. The way it works is the sap gets collected in a storage tank behind the shack. That holds 300 gallons of sap, and it comes in and gets filtered once, and then goes into this unit, which is a reverse osmosis machine in it. And what it does is the sap comes in, goes through this pump, it gets pressurized up to about 120 pounds, goes through this filter, and that's a 5 micron filter, so that takes out all the little sediments and all the other stuff and makes sure that it's clean. And then it goes through one element, through the next one, and then through the next one. And as it comes out, I can regulate the amount of sap and water that's coming out. This is the concentrated sap, and this is just pure water. So what I'll do is these need to be equal, and if they are, the little floats in here, if they're equal, then you're taking 50% of the water out of the sap, which cuts down on your boiling time and on your firewood consumption. So,
makes sense. Superficially, it looks a lot like a reverse osmosis water maker.
Yeah, essentially it is. Except that what in a water maker that you would be throwing away, the byproduct that you were getting rid of, is actually the concentrate.
Yeah, which is what you want. That's what you're going for.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I store the water, the other side of it, the pure water, I store that in order to clean the system periodically, and then at the end of the season.
So you've got pure water that comes out of there. So yeah, that's got to have a use. Like you said, you use it for cleaning.
Yeah, we use it. You know, you periodically, as you're doing this through the season, you flush the membranes. These are the membranes in here, and you'll flush those just to clean them off, to get the minerals and stuff off of the filter element.
I see.
Do that. But going through this, the sap will typically come in at, we'll say 2%, and 2% sugar. And when it comes out and it gets stored over in the concentrate tank, it's 4% sugar.
Yeah.
So your boil time, your wood consumption, all of that drops. It's like cut in half almost.
Yeah, I've got twice the sugar coming out.
I've gone from 3 quarts of wood a season to about 1.5 to 2.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say, here's good storage bins. And there's the mouth of the dragon right there. Oh, I'll get out of your way.
You can see inside, if you look up inside, those are, they're called flues. Yeah. And those are full of sap. And in order to get it to boil stronger and faster, you have those come down and the flames go up, reach up through, and go in between them before they exit the firebox.
Yeah, it captures more of that heat.
And it captures more of the heat. This will typically boil in the neighborhood of 12 gallons an hour. 12 to 15 gallons an hour.
That's pretty serious.
Depending on the quality of the wood and such.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Cool. Then in here, you've got different, I guess, sections.
Chambers, yeah, sections.
Chambers.
The sap comes in here in the back. It gets warmed up, goes through a hole over here, passage into this section here. This is where the flues are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the primary work is done. And the highest boiling rate is. It will eventually go through a passage over here and into this chamber. It'll come across, go through a chamber, another passage, and go in here where it's finished. It's getting closer to the point of syrup, and then comes through and then it's drawn off here. What I'm looking for on the gauge here is for it to reach about 217, 218, 217, 218 degrees. And then we'll draw that off and keep doing that through the process. And then eventually what we'll do is we'll finish it in a big 15-gallon, 18-gallon kettle that I have. And bring it to 219, and then you have to test it for its the sugar content.
Okay, so it's not just, I was thinking it was going to be like viscosity, but it's more about, you can actually test it for how much sugar we're talking here.
Yeah. And you measure it by temperature. Syrup is syrup at 219 degrees. But then you have then you're checking for density.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a float a hydrometer.
Oh, that makes sense.
That will measure, you float that in the syrup, and that will tell you where it's, what the density is. So I have one of these to measure the syrup. And I have another one that I can use to measure the amount of the density of the sap, so I know how much sugar content is in the sap.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can it.
Nice. Do you have a name for this operation?
It's called CWG Maple Products.
CWG Maple Products. You heard it here first. You see them on the shelves, pick it up.
That's right. CWG is named after Maple Products is named after my son. Because 10, 12 years ago, when he was about 5, he watched a TV show and turned to me and said, "Dad, I want to make maple syrup." And I kind of tried to let it go, and not really, because it was early in the fall, and he didn't let it go and insisted it as we got to it. We started out with a 55-gallon drum in the driveway, a little homemade barrel stove, and it just accelerated from there.
Yeah.
So here, this is where we're at now.
I'd say you got the setup right, sure. Gotta kind of get a wide view here. So during the spring season, I mean, how long do you say you spend out here just working this, babysitting it?
Once the sap starts running, you'd be out here pretty much every night boiling. Once you have enough. This holds 100 gallons of concentrate, and It will take me 2 evenings to boil it. To boil it down.
Well, 2 evenings isn't much.
This will, a typical season is like 6 weeks.
Okay.
It all depends on the weather.
I see.
Yeah, and the temperature swings.
And is it that just your window of opportunity, because after it gets too warm out, then, or I mean too cold, obviously the sap's not running,
Yeah.
and then too late, what's happening in the tree? Do you know?
The trees will start to bud. The buds will pop, the leaves will start to come, and once the buds on the trees start, the sap changes,
Oh, I see.
and it's not usable.
Probably using their own sugars for their own purposes
Yeah.
at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the end of it. So basically, you just watch it. You watch the trees when the buds start to pop. The sap will change, and it starts to smell a little bit, and the consistency changes. And as soon as that happens, they refer to it as buddy syrup, and that's the end.
Gotcha.
Because it won't cook the same way. And it spoils rapidly, really quick. It's one of the problems with it getting warm in the middle of the season, is that the sap can spoil. If you have a couple of 50-degree days, that's the sap. Any sap that you've collected, if you can't get it boiled, it will very likely spoil. And then you end up throwing it away. I've thrown away 300, 400 gallons of sap.
It's getting it right.
Because you just couldn't get, I was getting so much sap, and then I couldn't process it fast enough.
Cool. Well, good.
That's it.
That's it. Well, thank you very much, and I'm gonna definitely share this with anybody who's curious about making syrup from sap, I'd say.
Yeah.
Cool.
Whole syrup and process.
Hey Morgan, what's for breakfast?
French toast.
Yummy. And what's our special ingredient?
At the end of it, it'll be Scotch syrup.
It's a pretty good guess. I might even say love, but I'd be wrong. Not at this hour. No love at this hour. Thank you, Miss Morgan, for breakfast.